My name's Chris Hansen, not the one from Dateline NBC like everyone thinks about. But you know, I have a extensive career in incident response and cybersecurity. I've been an incident response lead for the Wisconsin Cyber Response Team, where we are a local volunteer group who help with actually remediating threats at the state level. So think of ransomware, think of phishing, think of anything like that that happens at a state level, whether that's colleges, schools, hospitals, municipalities, whatever it may be. So we've helped remediate a bunch of those. Um, I'm board member on DC 608. I kind of just gave that up recently. I'm an advisor for them, but I moved across country, so I'm not there anymore. Um, and then, yeah, huge F1 and MotoGP person. So if you ever want to talk about any of that, I'm always ears for that. So quick overview. We'll be very basic to start with. What is purple teaming? A lot of people don't really even know what that term is. It's kind of an ever-evolving conversation. Who all is involved with conversations like this and setting everything like that? How does it work? What do we need to do for it? How do we implement, or why should we even implement this in the first place? And then what do I need to do to get started in this? Which is always my favorite question to answer with. Next thing is going to be an easy one. We're just going to hit on some terminologies because I always think that's an important piece to do. So obviously, blue teaming, we're well acquainted with the blue team side of things. The defensive side of the house could be infrastructure, depending where you're at, SecOps, anything like that. That's going to end on the blue team side. Red team, obviously, this is the red team summit, so I'm not going to dive too much into that. But you guys obviously know your roles and your functions. I'd also throw that pen testing is going to be in here as well, but obviously they're not the same. I'm well aware of that. Open source software is something that is very near and dear to my heart. I've helped on work together on building some of them as well as maintaining them. But anything open source is just something general to the public that's been developed for the public, and keeping it so that everyone can use it. MITRE framework describes our setups and techniques that we're going to see, and we use this a lot to reference back to a lot of companies, and people love using it. So we're just going to be referencing that again. Linux. I don't know if I need to tell you guys about Linux, but yeah, we'll just say it's the superior operating system. And then infrastructure as code. We're not going to dive too much into that. Usually, I kind of hint on those things as we go through the conversation of setting up some of this as well. But we're not going to hit too much on that today. So next is, what is purple teaming? It's not just the red team and the blue team. It's going to be including the infrastructure team, making sure that they can spin everything up and maintain it so that you're not left alone without being able to run these tools, run these servers, run all this stuff. You do need to have the support from them, as well as other people that are really important, such as managers and your executive shareholders and things like that. You need everyone to buy into this process to really be able to, develop and to design a better security posture overall. If you don't really have everyone on board, you're kind of falling behind and you're going to be fighting the uphill battle that I'm sure plenty of you do on a regular basis, but make your lives easier if you can. Collaboration, obviously, I know that there's some mixed messages with that. Some people swear by the red team and say, hey, hackers only, we're the cool guys, we do all the cool stuff. Blue team is like, hey, you guys are way too cool for us, we don't want to hang out with you, we're in our own selective crowd. Obviously, I come from both sides of that, where it's like, we do hacking stuff, but I'm not cool enough to be a hacker. So anyways, I think that at the end of the day, we have to work together. One of my favorite trainings I've done recently was the Sec 560, where the instructor even says, like, as a pen tester, as a red teamer, you're realistically only paid on your deliverable, your report that you give at the very end. I think that's a very important thing that we bring up in this scenario. Like, us giving the report, us giving the end deliverable is important, but how we get to that end deliverable of actually securing the network and managing all that stuff, I think that's a different route that we're going to be able to take in this conversation. So we'll move forward there. Obviously, how it works, we've talked about the collaboration. One thing that I do want to talk about is simulating attacks. If you are a really good red team, you know that there's never enough time in the day. There's never enough time for you to be able to do all the cool exploit stuff that you want to be building and working on. There's just not enough hands, not enough time. And realistically, you need to, take that shift and work in a new direction. So you need to be able to automate some of that stuff. So I would say take the low-hanging fruit on your network and automate that first. There's tons of tools out there, which we'll get into for open source. There's also paid products out there, which again, maybe work for you, maybe don't work. It's just options depending on how much time you want to put into doing open source stuff, but we'll cover that a little bit later. At the end of the day, automation is going to make your life way easier. We do it on the blue team side of things, we do it on the red team side of things. Just try and do a little bit more if you can. It'll save your life. And this is one of my favorite slides. So the Atomic Purple team life cycle. I love Atomic Red team. I don't know if anyone noticed in our pre-meeting yesterday, but I was wearing an Atomic Red team shirt. Got to hang out with them. They're like the coolest people ever. They do a lot of really cool research and they help out a ton. But they come up with this really cool life cycle for doing Purple team, and I think of it similar to like the scientific method. We all learned that in elementary school, junior high, high school, where we're going to take an idea. We're going to say, hey, can I view, can I see this threat? Can I do this exploit? Can I do this thing? Yes or no? Okay, yes, I can. Oh, well, shoot. Did I visualize what was happening? Yes or no? Okay, well, we need to kind of fix that. And then we go through the whole, process and work through it all together. So obviously, figuring out what the risk is in the first place. What is the problem that we're running into? Plan. How do we want to actually, fix this problem? Are we going to be able to fix this problem? Is this something that it's just inherently bad? Is it a random zero day that shows up on Windows, that you can't really fix overnight? It might be a long-term plan. It could be a short-term plan. Obviously, my favorite part, the attack and execution simulation phase. If you can automate it, awesome. Build something out for that. If not, you get to do the fun thing and actually automate or get to emulate the attack and go through it and see what happens. On the flip side, one of my as the blue team, one of my favorite things to do is that detection side. That's when we're going to be able to see, hey, what actually occurred during this attack? Did we visualize and can we properly articulate through logs what was happening? Do we have visibility into the attack? Do we see everything that's happening? Yes or no? And can we defend against it, or do we just let it slide? Obviously, optimize, harden, and adjust. Nothing's going to be perfect. Anyone that's done indexing for Sims know that things change regularly as well. So you may have it working one day where you can see the detection, everything's working totally fine, and the next day, Splunk gets an upgrade or Elastic gets an upgrade, and you're all of a sudden, missing out on a bunch of those logs that you were expecting in the first place. So you may need to go back to those detections that you were working on and fix those, as well as the attacks. We see things get patched, and maybe the attack vector you were working on just doesn't work as well as it used to. So, and then obviously, again, the report. We're ultimately judged by our deliverable. So if you can't write a good report, if you can't deliver a good report, if you can't articulate what the problem was and how to actually, grow and advance from it or fix that problem, you're going to have a really hard time. And this is where we need to just double down and say, hey, we do a lot of really good work. We can hack all the things, we can do all the cool stuff, but you need to be able to showcase that hacking is only one side. Actually defending and helping other, people defend against the problems is the next step forward. So obviously, the benefits, we kind of talked about, the security resilience. As you're doing this life cycle, you're going to constantly be, building up your defenses. You could think of that in a tower defense kind of situation as you're putting up, your new little tower defense pieces. Every little bit is going to make you a little bit more fortified as those enemies come towards you. It's the same kind of idea that we're going for here. We're going to the tower outside. We're saying, hey, what's the easiest way to break into the tower? Oh, that thing over there. Okay, well, let's go fix that problem. Facilitates collaboration. This one I think is one of the most important pieces that we often overlook because, how often is it that your red team and your blue team are siloed? Um, it happens pretty regularly. You may have some conversations here and there, but I know a lot of companies where if you have both in the same house, they're usually kind of kept together and you might talk to each other every once in a while. You might be buddy buddy, but obviously you have to do like this kind of espionage game where you're not best friends, you're not able to tell each other what you're working on or what projects because you want to be able to, again, hack into the system as well as defend against the system. So you want to make sure that that collaboration effort's there, and we break down that barrier of, you know, I want to say old school mentality, that we can't really work together and solve these problems because realistically, that's how we grow better. Real-time feedback. This is one that I think is often overlooked. How often can we take an attack and we will say, hey, we want to run through this and see what happens? Okay, we'll wait for that. We kind of just, keep pushing it out, delaying the inevitable. I think being able to actually run an attack, see what happens immediately after, and then build detections in that scenario is going to give you more benefit than trying to say, okay, well, next time we see an actual threat try to do it, we'll figure something out. That's, kicking the can down the road, pushing the boulder up the hill if you want. So you're really becoming less efficient, less you know, um, clear in that scenario. And again, I hit on the efficiency. So efficient resource use. You're going to be more cost effective as you're building up this stuff, as you're working towards continuous improvement. It's going to overall just be so much more efficient for you, and it builds a good life cycle that long term you guys can manage. And I don't say want to say you could do sprints off of it, but you could do shorter term and longer term goals as well as fit in any 0 days or crazy exploits that come up in the wild or things that, may come up from third parties. And then obviously tailored defense strategies, which fits into that as well. So here is one of my favorite things. We've got some APT examples. So um, I like breaking this down, and what I do for my clients as a cyber field engineer, I step in and I'm kind of like a VCSO, but I do the exploits for them and I help them do the emulated red teaming stuff. So what we'll do is I'll say, hey, when's the last time that you know, got a threat intelligence report about a group that was particularly aiming at you, specifically aiming at you and your organization? And I can't say specifically what's hitting them, but I just picked up a few examples off the MITRE uh, website of a couple groups that I've kind of heard about. I know a little bit about them, may have worked with them in the past, just some information here. So some examples, Inc. ransomware. They're a ransomware group that have been going around the United States and Europe. They particularly like the education sector as well as state sectors and the charitable donation groups. And they specifically target them. They do their ransomware campaign and then they go through the whole thing. So what we do is we'll break it down by each individual type of attack. We'll say, hey, what is what if we did this first one? Let's just break it down. It's going to be scanning for domain accounts in compromised environments. Have you tested against that? Yes or no? Okay, you have. What detections have you built around that to actually view that? Okay, can you protect against that, or are you just alerting so that you have someone go and investigate that? And then, these are some that I really liked in this scenario. The next one, so that exploit public facing application is going to be CVE 2023-3519, which is going to be like Citrix Next Scaler. They're using that for initial access. So they're just getting a foothold using free software that's available. Sometimes it's paid, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's in the wild, sometimes it's something that you have native, which brings me to the next one. Um, the impairing defenses by disabling or modifying tools, they use a system setting admin flows.exe, which is obviously a native Windows utility, to disable Defender itself. So they're using built-in tools to turn Defender off so that they can actually leverage against it. So again, do you have something monitoring when Defender gets turned off? Your antivirus in general. Is it reporting? Is it calling home? Yes or no? Do you have a detection on that? Yes or no? Okay, well, can we block against that kind of stuff? Yes, cool. No, okay, well, let's build detections. Um, PS exec, executable, win UDP or UPD to mimic a legitimate Windows update file. So again, it's a normal PS exec command that people would use regularly. Are you monitoring what's being ran every time PS exec is? Maybe not, because that's being done a lot by system administrators, but you might want to look into some of that stuff. And then obviously WMIC to deploy ransomware. That one you should absolutely be looking at WMIC and developing detections around that stuff. So if you guys aren't developing detection engineering, that would be something that I would recommend. Obviously, at the Red Team Summit, I'm not expecting you guys specifically to do that, but you should have some input into those teams that are creating those detections and saying, hey, um, you know, again, can we block against this? Yes or no? Okay, yes, we can. Awesome. We don't need to build a detection unless it happens, 1,000 times. We'd want to know that someone's still trying to do it. Or on the flip side, we can't detect or we can't defend against this. We can't stop it. Well, let's build a detection and let me give you my red team guidance and knowledge of how I would do this so that we can build and specifically design the guardrails. On the flip side, LAPSUS. This is a very common one. I'm sure you guys have heard about them recently, part of their crypto stuff. But I like some of the different techniques that we see, again, going back to the MITRE framework, that are a little bit different in this scenario. So that first one is going to be for paying employees, suppliers, and business partners of targeted organizations for credentials. Are you monitoring random location logins for some of your users? Are you making sure that they're not on external VPNs or weird known VPSs or VPC services to hop into your network? Again, great detection ideas and things that, as a red teamer, I would totally do something like this. I would say, hey, customer, I'm gonna try logging in as Betty Sue from finance, and I'm going to log in via a VPC. So I'm going to log into this, and then I'm going to leverage it to get into the network. Are you monitoring that? Are you stopping those connections? Are you detecting against that? Yes or no? That would be something that you'd want to know. Global admin accounts. Creating global admin accounts for cloud instances to gain persistence. Um, Windows built-in tool, NTDS util, to extract the Active Directory database. Um, Targeted various collaboration tools. This one's one of my favorites, actually. Targeted various collaboration tools like Slack, Teams, Jira, Confluence, and others to hunt for exposed credentials to support privilege escalation and lateral movement. Nobody's talking about this. What are your out-of-band communications? Are you also deleting plain text credentials in Slack, in Teams, in Jira? How many times do you guys have hard-coded passwords and things? So just food for thought, something to always think about. And then this last one, when an ID or yeah, Mimikatz. So when the ID has an S in it, so at the very beginning you can see that it has an S instead of a T. Obviously, it refers to software, and we know Mimikatz is used regularly with this group. So I just want to call that out because sometimes people will see the T and they'll be like, "Oh, well, that's all I ever see." There are S's as well. The other one had more software to use, but I just want to reference this one specifically since it's one that we see regularly. And of course, if you want more of these, you can check out the attack.mitre.org/groups, and there's tons of different groups. and you can specifically tailor it to your organization and go towards attacks. That would also be a good thing to emulate on your side as well as you're doing some of this. Obvious examples of testing some of this, as you're doing some of these emulation and simulations, you should be doing something like Bloodhound. Obviously I'm well familiar that you guys are red team again, but Bloodhound is something that you can use for defense and offense. You should be able to see what are our biggest problems, what are our gaps, what are our visibility issues, and be able to articulate that to the detection team so that they can write certain things for that. Um, and these are just some quick detection flags that you can see real fast. If you don't know any of the detection flags that Bloodhound has set up, obviously they're coming out with some more because they've got the community edition and everything, but these are just some quick ones if you haven't used them recently. Another example, I like this one a lot just because it's simplistic and you can kind of see how to get to the domain administrator real quick, and control the entire network. So again, just use, open source tools. That's the main point of this one, is that we can use open source, we can use paid tools, but they're whatever to reach your objective is going to be best for you. So hitting on that open source versus paid option, open source is going to be free for you to use. It's going to some of the issues that you're going to run into is lack of training. Some of the trainings out there just aren't really great for that. It is a time investment. So for you to be able to understand how the tool works, to spin up the environment, to maintain it, to do upgrades, all that stuff is going to be things that you need to do. So unless you have another group that's maintaining it and doing all that stuff for you, that's something to take into account during all this. And again, that's part of that conversation, is it usually does require more staffing if you're going to do it that direction. Paid, obviously it's easier to set up, it's easier to maintain. There's going to be more training and guidance, quicker to deploy. And I put the asterisk by the less resources required because it really does depend on your infrastructure and setup and everything like that, but we won't go into too much of that. Great places to start. So CISA, huge fans of them, obviously, with the stuff that I've done with the incident response. I've worked with them quite a bit. They're awesome. And then in this scenario, the Wisconsin Cyber Response Team, we're always happy to answer questions and point you in the right direction. Whether you're a red teamer or a blue teamer, it doesn't matter. We do assessments for the state stuff as well. So we'll do vulnerability scans and give feedback to those SLTTs as well, state, local, tribe, and territories. Some vendors in the space, if you're curious at all, Pantera, which is who I work for. Obviously, I'm a little biased. But there's also Horizon 3, Rapid7, XM Cyber, who do the emulation side of it. So you guys, as the red teamers, can do more fun and targeted and cool things. And then, of course, how this enhances everything, fixes all your blind spots, strengthens you up, increases confidence. It's proactive security, which I think is the most important reason to have this conversation in the first place, because we're seeing too many companies and individuals getting hit right now because they're just being reactive. We need to take the approach to be proactive and solve these problems. Instead, it keeps us ahead of everything. So how does this apply to me? Again, hitting back on this, we're ultimately paid on deliverables, not your elite skills. As much as I love to be the hacker that does all the cool things and destroys everyone and walks away as the building's burning in the background, that's not the way that it is. We need to be able to tell them, hey, we can fix this, we can work together, let's solve these problems. An organization is only strong as its blind spots. If they can't see that the problem exists, they don't know what's lurking in the shadows, we need to fix that for them. Perfect. And then again, working with everyone, collaborating and building that up. So, and I leave this as the last one. This will be my last thing, and then we'll go to the Q&A. Knowing what other groups does helps with your skills as well. You may get to the point where I am, where you realize that doing incident response and forensics was awesome, but you really enjoy doing stuff on the red team side of things as well, and you start building into the more purple team. So just food for thought. There's also that side as well. More training, cyber warfare labs, MITRE Purple Team fundamentals. I'm always happy to answer questions as well. You can ping me directly. References, Atomic Purple Team. I'm not going to dive too much into all this, but there's been a lot of people who've helped out on this because this is such a engrossing topic and it's growing more and more. and then questions and answers. So let's dive into that. How can one get involved in state local incident response teams? Great question. It's a hard one, just because not every state has it. That's something that we've been working with the government to do. I will say at a federal level, I've been trying to help out on that, have those conversations, but nothing really definitive at this time. So we're trying to figure that out. I would say that if you are curious, go to that CISA website. There is a how to volunteer, how to get involved, and that'll have some information for you. If you have questions, you can always hit me up, and I'd be happy to help you, kind of point you to the right direction of some of that stuff. The next one, blue teamer, more of a response. How can I transition to purple team? Um, I think you're exactly in the spot where you need to be. You're an incident response person who wants to transition and do more of that stuff. Pick up a few tools. Again, have these conversations with people and say, hey, look, we want to do purple teaming. We want just get the shareholders all in the same room and say, look, this is the overall plan we want to do. This is the way that we need to progress, the way that we need to solve things, and you can kind of solve that direction. I think long term, uh, it just takes having the right conversations, getting the right people in the room, and having that desire. So you're totally going that direction. What skills do you need? I would definitely say uh, intermediate, red teaming would be extremely helpful. Think of like a junior pen tester stance. You should be able to do internal pen tests of like Active Directory, LLM&R, things like that. That's going to give you a good foothold to get started at least, because you'll want to do external and internal. But then you're also going to want to have incident response skills where you can help develop some of that detection and visibility as well. So, and I think you brought up a good point too on that last part. Why aren't people very interested in this role? I think it's not necessarily like you don't just hire a purple teamer every time. Some companies do, but not everyone just hires a purple teamer. You usually do need a lot of people to do this. So at least a couple to all work together. So I'd definitely say that get everyone together and you can build it out over time. What would be a good first purple team exercise? Um, what I would do to get started is so if you have, let's say your industry is banking. Banking's always getting hit by, or financial is always getting hit by these different threat actors. Let's take one threat actor. Let's break down what they do by MITRE technique. If you as a red teamer can perform those actions, uh, then that's where you should get started. You should say, hey, let's sit down with the blue team. Let's go through step by step. Let's see if we can do these actions, yes or no. Let's monitor them and build that out. So I think that would be the best way to get started. Obviously, you could even go more high level. You could break it down into a tabletop and just go that direction. Say, hey, what would we do if a group were to attack us? Kind of break it down in the incident response playbook as well as adding some of your steps. So there are options. There's tons of ideas. Um, but I think that you guys clearly have the motivation and the interest. So maybe a purple team summit would be something of interest as well. So
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Here's a question from Andy.
yeah.
For small teams that may not have red team talent in place, do you have any thoughts on using an automated pen testing platform to fill in that gap and make the blue team purple?
I think that's a great call out. So obviously I'm a little biased. I don't know if you can see the shirt. I'm wearing my Pantera shirt. That is literally what we do. We automate that stuff for you guys, specifically if you don't have someone on staff. We emulate it so that you're able to, focus on building those detections, building out those, defense mechanisms. I think that's a great first step. I do think that you do need to have some chops even to use an automated platform. You need to know what kind of exploits are being used and what tools are being used, but that's all stuff that you can build up over time as well. So I think if you don't have the manpower and you don't have the will to do open source, going with a paid option is perfectly fine. I think that's a great first step.
Absolutely. I have a couple questions related to this, but basically people who are solo, like Doc here says, I'm the only one who will be trying to defend against this. Where's a good place to start? Kind of answered that maybe a little bit, but any other suggestions you have for people who are running solo in their
Yeah,
positions?
it's hard when you're the end all be all person, and I've been in that position as well. What you really need to do is you need to keep track of every single. I would just break down every single miter attack that you see, and then your defense capabilities against it. So if you want to do a matrix against it, I know. I think funny, and I keep touting how awesome they are, but Red Canary, the Atomic Red Team, they have a matrix that it's actually a spreadsheet where you can say, hey, this is the attack vector in MITRE. This is what we do to detect it or defend against it. And you could build out an entire spreadsheet against that. I think that would be a good first step. Again, building out, maybe getting a platform, a paid platform that automates and scans everything and gives you a baseline to start with would also be a good direction to go. Or something like Caldera or again Atomic Red Team, which is a open source tool that you could use to leverage as well in this scenario. So there's tons of ideas.
Awesome. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I think that was most of the questions there. Oh, there's a good question here from shell code. If you could share education job positions that you've had that led you to the point where you're at in your career, like what kind of education job roles would somebody need to hold in order to get to where you are in your career?
Great question. I actually have done a few conference talks on this before, if anyone's interested. Um, I don't have a degree. I came from a background of being a mattress salesman. So I really think that anyone can do it if they're dedicated and willing to learn enough. I watched a ton of YouTube videos. I attended DEF CON. I attended Black Hat. To attend Black Hat, I didn't even pay for it. I volunteered and got in that way, and I met a lot of really cool people. I got to shake hands with some of the coolest and brightest people out there, and because of that, you just learn through osmosis. I think that there's tons of free courses out there. There's tons of paid courses. Um, there's definitely a lot of avenues, but at the end of the day, I would say that Black Hills InfoSec has made it a lot easier, not to toot their horn either, but the pay what you can trainings are awesome. The free resources that they do, the webinar series, just everything is so good to learn from and sit down and gather. I would definitely say that that's a good route to go to get started. And then also TCM has some really good hands-on stuff that you can get a hold of. Try Hack Me, Hack the Box. There's a ton of free options out there to just start dabbling. Blue Team Labs, again, if you're trying to build out your purple chops, you can do some of the blue team side as well as the red team side. So yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic, man. We appreciate the shout out, of course. Always appreciated and
well, it's
always
well
here to help.
deserved. Yeah, it's well deserved. So
Yeah, we couldn't do it without y'all. So we genuinely do appreciate y'all sharing your time with us, and like that's what's most important about this is we want to make sure we acknowledge you all because you're taking precious time out of your lives to spend that here with us. So hopefully you're gaining, new knowledge out of this, you're being entertained, or you're building new connections and relationships with people. Hopefully something from this is beneficial for you because we truly do appreciate y'all being here with us. With that, thank you again, Chris, for being here and sharing your knowledge with us.